the closed captioning going. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, thank you. I'm not thinking about that when I threw it together.
No.
It's in the Google Docs, so hopefully it's not too difficult.
No, I'm in Ally is good at it too, so we've got between the two of us, and if
I
we
really
can get it done, we're gonna work on that first, but we're trying to find a bypass to it, but if not, we'll do it.
I almost got all the text too, almost, like. I know, I did, but.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Oh,
You're having. Yeah. Then we reduce. That for all public. Well, that's what I'm thinking, because I think you did.
Where you have to like calculate whether or not you like gas or.
Well, they took my picture.
And Boulder.
Yeah. Did you in the morning?
Yeah, because we were in TW, going to work for the so good ability to make our own shoes for the one. Yeah. It's like, that's your reason. All right, thank you. Increase.
So, thank you. Yeah, I think it's fun.
We seem to be calling and asking. Yeah, so. There's a question.
Yes.
So I do think maybe it was. So, with more. Okay.
I was gonna you know what I heard from continuously say. Oh, there used to be this virtual like.
Yeah.
I hear you guys, every time it's like, oh, I was showing out the John Bates, I was funny enough. With them.
I think it's.
Wanted you to get positioned for you look like
Mayor.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you didn't know what to do when Arnie was going. You were looking the wrong way. I know. I know.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone, I'm good. We're gonna be on their own. We talk. Oh, I did.
Okay. All right.
I woke up, several times, didn't want the alarm to go off, I was early, so waking up. And we scored some chair. Yeah. Just for the search. Yeah. That was, I probably. The community partnership, that was interesting. That was, on Walltail Finance Department, program. They're down, but it's the recycle. That was interesting. The other thing. So you can meet her here. Wow. And then for one, yeah, for one, yeah. And then, fire floods as a response. Oh, I know that. Yes, I think they're, yeah, they are. And they talked about their program. I don't know if it's also on the. Colorado, Neuro-Diverse Chamber of Commerce. I know, so I wrote that website down because my daughter's. So I did it out. That's what she said, that they were. About 6 months ago, they talked about something like that. And now I'm just. So I'm just, I didn't see it. They're just facilitating. Yes.
I'm not friendly. Whippersnapper.
So let's. The back again. That's an argument. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I just wanted.
Oh, yeah, so that, yeah. Sorry. Hi. That's here.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Oh, actually, fine. Well, that was a good trip, though. That was.
Yeah. Great.
It was just nice to see. First.
I want to see it in Milton, right?
Yeah, sure. That was funny and stuff. Now are you coming here? Or do you? I know the blue line, you're a lot of places. We are, but we live here.
I live in here.
I know, when they say especially. Right. We only work pretty much here. Yeah. That's what we think. Yeah, don't go on. Yes, yeah. Like nothing you see. No.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for our last breakout session today. We're being joined here. Sorry, I'm scrolling down. This is our housing navigation services for the IDD population breakout room. So I hope that today has been really meaningful to everyone. Just for a quick kind of functional piece, we're going to have our 3 presenters talk through some of the information that they've come here to share. If we have time, we'll spend a couple minutes for Q&A at the end. So if you have a question, jot it down. And we'll try to get to a couple of those. If you don't have time for Q&A, y'all can hunt them down after the conference or during our 10-minute change. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca Seiden.
Thank you. I did want to remind you that the slide decks will be available after the conference. So, and we may be contacting you via email to kind of keep this network going. So I'm Rebecca Seiden, the IDD Mill Levy Coordinator with Boulder County Human Services Community Initiatives Unit. I've been employed by Boulder County for almost 5 years now. Boulder County passed a ballot measure in 2002 to support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, autism, and brain injury who reside in Boulder County. Boulder County is very different in that we include brain injury within this ballot measure. The other mill levies within Colorado, I do not know that any of them include that population as well. So anything that I speak about, it's always all three populations. We also did further define brain injury, and it is a person 22 and over of age with a brain injury acquired as an adult that results in a disability. Boulder County Housing and Human Services, now Boulder County Housing, contracted to complete an IDD needs assessment that was presented in Boulder County in 2019. In that IDD needs assessment, there were 8 priority needs presented. You can see them on the screen. Many stakeholders stated that housing is a fundamental need and core service and a priority need. There is a rising crisis for people with IDD due to limited housing options, lack of supportive housing programs, affordability, and housing vouchers. Many individuals are faced with challenges in finding affordable, accessible, safe, and personal choice when looking for housing. Sorry, my paper is out of order. So as you can see in this slide, we had contracted with A&I Avenues to get some data for us. So they did a telephone survey earlier this year. This is very concerning to me. You have age of person receiving services. Look at that 16 to 21 years of age. It's 41.69% of the respondents were that age. Where are they going to be living in a couple years? That's what we need to look at. Here's the current living arrangements. Look at the top one. Live with parents, family, friends, guardians in their home. 73.87% of those respondents live with aging caregivers. That is extremely distressing to me. And I know it's distressing to a lot of elderly caregivers as well. This trend raises a very important question about future care and support for their children. Many aging caregivers express deep concern about the future support for their adult children, particularly regarding arrangements after they pass. There is a prevailing fear among these caregivers that their adult children may be placed in residential settings, which many are concerned may not meet their children's needs. Another area of critical need that was identified in this same telephone survey is a concern from our Spanish-speaking community. Our review of the Spanish language surveys revealed that many individuals in this category have urgent housing needs that are not being adequately addressed. In fact, some of them said that, thank you. Some of them said that they were major needs and actually life-threatening. That's a concern. The knowledge gap leaves many without the support that is needed. The language barrier complicates communication around housing issues and emergent situations. This not only affects individuals, but also hinders service providers from effectively supporting the community. Many Spanish-speaking respondents expressed critical housing concerns, highlighting the need for tailored resources and support that acknowledge their unique challenges. I'd like to share an important slide from the healthcare policy and financing. This illustrates the total waiver enrollment by fiscal year. As you see, there is a notable increase in enrollment between the 2020-21 and 2021-22 fiscal years. This trend highlights a growing demand for future housing services. Additionally, pay special attention to the increases in children's waivers, specifically the Children's Habilitation Residential Program and the Children's Extensive Services. These programs represent prospective seekers of housing. Where's that housing inventory going to come from? Boulder County IDD Mill Levy Program is dedicated to ensuring that individuals with IDD, brain injury, and autism are fully included as valued members of our community. Our commitment involves providing access to safe, affordable, and customized housing solutions tailored specifically for the neurodiverse population. To achieve this, we are currently developing a comprehensive housing navigation plan. This plan will identify affordable, accessible, and safe housing options while offering proactive residential support services. Our goal is to assist individuals and families as they navigate housing issues, ensuring they receive the support they need at every step. We have already made progress by implementing systems navigation positions, which facilitate earlier access to necessary services for this population. In addition, the Boulder County IDD Mill Levy Program has proposed 2 new positions to enhance housing navigation specifically for neurodiverse residents. The first position will focus on assisting community members in navigating the systems required to obtain housing. This includes direct support in completing applications and following up with housing authorities and landlords. This role is vital for finding person-centered housing that meets the unique needs of individuals, ensuring they have safe and supportive living environments. The second position that we're proposing is crucial for ensuring the stability and longevity of housing. The residential support specialist will play a key role in helping to mitigate issues that may arise between tenants and landlords or neighbors. In addition, this position will connect participants to additional community resources that are essential for maintaining housing stability. This residential support specialist will also serve as a vital link between various agencies and individuals who support the resident, including case management and service agencies. Together, these 2 positions will create a necessary continuum of services, not only assisting residents in finding suitable, accessible housing, but also working to prevent homelessness. To ensure we address the concerns of our BIPOC community, we recommended that these positions be bilingual, enhancing communication and support for those who may face additional barriers. These positions will reside within Boulder County Housing. We're also looking at a funding to go with these 2 positions that will be coordinated by a housing panel. In conclusion, we need to emphasize the importance of community partnerships and the voices of those with lived experience to create a collaborative approach to tackle the housing crisis. Continuing to network and advocate for comprehensive support systems will be crucial in fostering independence and inclusivity for individuals and families. Together, we can create lasting change and empower our communities. Let's keep that momentum going from this summit, please. I'd like to introduce Erica from Be Home.
I'm here as someone with lived experience of a lifelong disability as well as someone with experienced housing instability. I'm also the program manager for Be Home. So Be Home, we just completed our first year of serving clients, and we are a housing navigation program. We have 2 intake coordinators. One of whom is also a SOAR disability income navigator. 5 housing navigators, 1 mental health counselor, and 1 intern. So eligibility for our program, We're a mill levy funded program, which means that we offer services to folks that are Denver residents. And then all of our clients must also either have an intellectual or developmental disability, be seeking that designation, or have a developmental delay if they're younger than 5 years old. And we also serve households as well. So as long as there's at least one household member that has an IDD designation or is seeking that designation, and then the individual must be looking for support with their housing or home ownership. The first and foremost, our Be Home is a partnership. The partnership between the individual families that they have as natural supports, their professional support networks, and staff. First staff, if someone is interested in Be Home services, they can connect with our intake team either via phone or email, and they'll do a phone screening to ensure that the individual or family meets the 3 criteria we just discussed. If they do meet those 3 criteria, then they're offered an intake. And then after intake, they connect with a housing navigator, which we'll discuss more. So Be Home housing navigation services are individualized to every client. Every client is going to create a housing stability plan with their navigator to help kind of guide those services. We're fortunate to be able to serve folks regardless of housing status, meaning that we do work with a lot of folks that are currently experiencing homelessness. We are also serving folks that are at risk of homelessness for a variety of reasons, whether they're in a unit they can't afford, or they're in a unit maybe that's not accessible for them, or otherwise not working for them. Or maybe there's like tenant landlord conflict, those kind of things. And then working with that individual or family and supporting them to find and maintain housing of their choice. So we're supporting them with housing applications. We do a ton of advocacy, whether that's advocating with for the client with their property management, with another service provider, helping them with recertification paperwork if they have a voucher, if they don't have a voucher, helping them apply for that. We're also able to offer limited financial support. So we can assist with things like funding for a first month's rent or deposit, funding for furniture, moving assistance, really anything that's, if you were to look in a community, maybe there's a gap and it doesn't exist. My navigators can often help get clients connected with funding through Be Home for that. And then we also offer mental health counseling, and that's available to both Be Home clients as well as their family members. So to date, we've received 190 referrals. Reasons vary. A lot of the folks we're seeing are experiencing homelessness or are at significant risk of homelessness. And then 43 of our clients entered the program while experiencing homelessness. And we've served 110 households. Of those 143 clients, we served 110 reported intellectual and developmental disability. I think the remaining clients were family or household members of those individuals. Income was a big deal for our folks. So more than about 80% of the households we served reported income less than $10,000 per year, and 50% reported 0 income. The majority of the clients we serve self-identified as being in the BIPOC communities. Now for some celebration. So to date, Be Home has assisted 10 households in moving into housing of their choice. Half of those households exited homelessness with the support of the Be Home team. Of those 5 families that exited homelessness, 2 of them obtained vouchers with the support of their housing navigator. 1 moved into a market rate unit, and then 2 households access the vouchers that they had before they connected with Be Home. We also had 5 households move into new apartments of their choice, and of those 5, we had 1 household without a voucher that obtained a voucher through Be Home, and then the other 4 already had vouchers when they connected with my team. So lesson learned in our first year, partnerships are absolutely the most important thing in this work. We could not do this work without the partnership of agencies like Denver Human Services, Rocky Mountain Human Services, El Grupo Vida, partnerships with the clients themselves, families, caregivers, you name it. Housing vouchers and advocacy are the biggest needs that we found and most impactful services. Frankly, as I'm sure all of you know, like income is the vast majority of our clients just simply don't have the income that's needed to find and sustain housing in a market rate manner. We also found that even our clients with vouchers still are facing challenges to finding and maintaining their housing, whether that's because they need an accessible unit and they can't find that, or they're facing challenges related to conflict with a landlord, conflict with neighbors. And then just the availability of readily accessible funding has been a huge game changer for us because we're able to provide clients with funding without having to jump through a ton of hoops. You know, if we identify that a client needs funding right now for rental assistance or for a unique need related to their disability, we're able to provide that for them, and often that can make a big difference between the client being housed or staying housed and not. So as far as our next steps, we want to, of course, continue to collaborate with our clients, continue to get folks housed. 10 households is great, but obviously we still have so many more with such tremendous need that we want to, you know, house as many folks as we can and support as many households in maintaining their housing. We want to continue building out our programming for clients with aging caregivers, as well as those seeking home ownership. We're here today because we want to continue learning from the IDD community and service providers so that we're better able to fill the gaps that we're seeing. We want to continue refining our processes and create and strengthen community partnerships. So to make a referral, I did leave a stack of our referral forms on the resource wall in the hall by the check-in desk. You can also email our program at behome-idd@bay.enterprises. You can also call or text the phone number on the screen. You're also more than welcome to reach out to me directly if you have a referral or have questions. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much again because this work is not possible without partnerships.
Hello, I'm Rocky Mountain Human Services. My name is Arnie Swenson. Rocky Mountain Human Services is the CMA for Denver and Adams County, and also has decades of experience in the Denver community with folks who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. Mission Supports Program is what I run. About 7 years. Been running a program called Mission Supports. It's been funded by Denver Mill Levy funds. This next slide is really gonna get you. What? That's who I am. That's what happens when you get the community director involved in your, put my picture up there. So that's my phone number. But I've been running this program for 7 years. And our purpose is to connect to people with intellectual developmental disabilities in Denver who are experiencing homelessness. They're going to live in a shelter. They live in the streets. They live motels, cars. Also people who are at risk of homelessness, people who are just getting out of incarceration, usually don't have a home set up. Folks that have lost their elderly caregiver, we've heard a little bit about that. That was happening a lot during the pandemic. We met a lot of folks who lost their caregiver. We also have this year, at risk of homelessness has increased with the evictions. If you've seen in the news, evictions have gone up. We have a quarter of our participants are children under 21. So those are included, those families where we meet families who are being evicted with a family member who has an intellectual developmental disability. So those are some of the areas where we provide a service to connect people to their benefit, to the appropriate benefit. We meet people sometimes who have been with an intellectual developmental disability who've been mislabeled, shall we say, and called maybe an addict, called maybe mental illness for how they presented. So it's taken a lot over the last 7 years working with the Denver shelters, working with the co-responders, the STAR program that you've heard a lot about, where they go out with, for first responders, go out without uniformed police officers. And so we've done a lot of work with those partners, and we are the resource for folks who basically have had a failed special education to adult services transition. That's what usually you're going to meet, that guy that was up there earlier. And what our main piece is, like I said, people think, well, you're going to get some housing for us. You're going to get some. The housing that we find for folks sometimes is when we apply for an emergency DD waiver for someone and make the argument for that exception. We also help people. Our primary goal is to help people get determined eligible, because again, like I said, some folks, if they were in special ed, they didn't have natural supports and a stable home, they're going to move from school to school. They're going to move from foster care to foster care. So you don't sometimes even get that determination done for DD. So we've met a lot of folks. Derek is a fella who's amazing and who we met, who was in special education when he was young, in his 50s. But no record, nothing that connected him to DD services, never had received services. And by the time we met him, he was living on the streets. It was pre-pandemic, and he did not like shelters. The shelters is where he found bullies. It's where he found people stealing from him. And it's an intimidating place for some. And so when we met Derek, he had just lost 3 of his fingers to frostbite. And he had that smile on the whole time. You never saw him whining about his frostbite or anything. Everything was always that smile. We helped him. We went down the line, and what we helped him with was we got his DD determination figured out. So he was able to access and apply for the emergency DD services as well as the SLS. We just apply for everything. While we were were working on that, RMHS Mill Levy Department has a wonderful individual expense request process that we use for clothes, daily needs, and transportation, things like that. So Derek was able to get set up with that. We worked with him side by side. A lot of the work we had to do with him, he wasn't able to do, and he told us he wasn't able to do it on his own. One of the things was calling Social Security and figuring out, if he had social security disability. He had been with no income for many years, many years. We found out that later that Derek had been on the streets a long time, a long time. So we also worked with him on kind of learning some self-advocacy stuff. And we were able to help him with some basic transitional case management that's outside of his Medicaid, long-term Medicaid benefit that we're working on. And that's with the Social Security. We found that we were able to get him connected to his Social Security. He had his own card for a while. That didn't work out. Twice he was exploited, and the last time for big money. It was a pretty big fraud situation that was going on. We had reported to that Social Security and the police department the whole time. He had that smile, by the way. And when we were finished with that disability chaos, with him losing his disability income over and over again, we were able to hook him up with a rep payee. CFPD, we helped him out with being a rep payee. So that definitely helped him out. I can tell you something about Derek also, is that he went through all of that, always saying, I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what you guys are doing. But at the end of all of this, we had done all of this work and he scored one of those vouchers. And so that was when he got pretty excited. And most of our people that we work with, that's what they want, is some housing. That's the first thing they're going to say. And when they do get something, an apartment, we do help. Like I said, sometimes we've got people approved for that emergency DD waiver, and we get them into a host home, or we can get them into a PCA, something that they visit and they feel is appropriate and that would meet their needs. But when it comes to an apartment, this is the stuff that we usually think we have to get ready for. We have to learn to, log into the portal to pay your rent. You got to unpack. You got to change your address, find a grocery store, figure out your bus stop and all that stuff. Now, this is usually stuff that's, all of you have probably done this. I've done. It's stressful. And it gets done. We all know we have to get it done. This is a pretty big challenge for the folks that we work with, because when they get into a home, it's not like they have everything. And sometimes if there's no voucher involved, and there's a thing in Denver called rapid housing that you might have been hearing about, and that's where people just are on a queue to get picked up. Maybe they're in a shelter system where they can get an apartment immediately, and they move them in. And sometimes if you don't have the right agency with you, you won't have any furniture with you. You won't have any groceries. You won't have anything. You'll have a lot of neighbors who need some treatment. And so we found some people that we've had 2 people get rapid housing opportunities. One of them left within the first week, just left their apartment. And the other person kind of learned how to work with it, but we did have to help them a lot with getting personal belongings. Yeah, they just got in there with, we didn't even know where he was for a couple of weeks, actually. So the rapid housing just like scooped you up, get you an apartment. So one thing we also find that when people get their apartments, usually you get to do what do you call those? When you have a big party, when you get your new place. Yeah. Doesn't happen as much as it should, because there's so much to get used to, so many things that need to happen. And this is just the beginning of it. This is just like the first week, but within the first month, people sometimes that we meet, they have a desire for independence, but not necessarily the greatest understanding of independence yet, or their learning curve. They're just starting their learning curve for independence. And we've met a lot of people who, like I said earlier, who've been in foster care situations. They've been bounced around. So their concept of services, their perception of services, host home providers, mentorship, very cynical, very cynical. So we have to come up with new words sometimes to go, we're not looking at services, we're looking at some fun help. I don't know, but you have to do something, because within that month, we're getting calls immediately where they're relying on someone. And these are some of the things that we've heard in the first month. The first month, after the first 30 days, the housing authority was late on their share of my rent. And now I have a late fee, and they got a notice. I don't like this apartment. We've had people walk into an apartment and just immediately see it, and they've signed the lease and they're just like, I don't like this. And it could be for many reasons that have to do with the neurodiversity that is there as well. Because some earlier in the day, someone shared that having four walls that you're sharing can sometimes be stressful for some. So, but that's what we have folks that just immediately walk in thinking, I don't like this. We have people who lost their keys in the first month pretty fast. Property manager told me I needed some services to stay here. I'm being bullied by my neighbor. I'm out of money. I didn't get my Social Security deposit. That happens a lot. Weed is supposed to be legal in Colorado. We hear that a lot too. When they get an apartment and it's immediately where they're like, I know what I need to do in my place. And they learn quickly that that's not what the lease and the agreement said to do, but that's a tough one to get through, because that's like the big celebration a lot of people are looking for, is that freedom to do that weed smoking in their apartment. But that is something, and it seems like something that might not be a big deal, but it becomes a big deal because it has something to do with ownership and of what freedom is to them, what independence is. What is this? What I thought I was allowed to do this. We have this can become this tightrope of independence isn't just for people with an intellectual developmental disability. We work, like I said, we have a quarter of our folks are children. And so we end up working and having to help coordinate things for families as well if we're getting evicted, who are having a difficult time with their tightrope of independence. So it's not singled out just to folks with an intellectual disability. This is a tough thing to do coming out of homelessness. And so this is a program that we've been able to, in the last 7 years, we've served 400 folks, a little over 400 people. Out of that 400, we've been able to, a lot of those folks, we were able to reconnect them to services. Some folks left their host homes. Some folks left some services in Mesa County. So we were able to reconnect them to something that's in Denver. But we were able to get 80 people determined eligible for DD services who we met. And Derek was one of those folks. Derek moved into his apartment. He was pretty excited. And within 6 months, he was just about to get a day program. And within 6 months, the neighbor caught their apartment on fire, which pretty much took out 6 apartments. One was his. And I don't know if anytime there's a fire, you'll see they'll put that yellow tape around. No one's going anywhere. You're not going in there to get anything. All of his belongings were gone. He had smoke damage. He never got to go back in. They were supposed to find him a place to live temporarily. That wasn't working out too well. And it was pretty sad because about 2 months after his place burnt down and they were just about to find him a place, another place. The property manager is supposed to find a place. If your place burns down, they're supposed to find you something. He was at a shelter because he was back at a shelter at the day shelter trying to get his stuff, and they were really beautiful to him at the day shelter. And he was pretty stressed out. And he called us and he said, I don't think I feel good. And that was the day he had a heart attack and he had passed away. He had had COVID that week and we didn't know about, but it wasn't he got to have that apartment. But there were a lot of things that he couldn't have done by himself, and he needed daily assistance, daily support. He needed daily presence so that the neighbors who might be bullied see that there's daily presence. And he needed someone to advocate to the property manager when he would be accused of breaking something that wasn't his fault. So we worked with Derek is someone that we kind of think about him a lot because every piece of what we do, we worked with him and we learned a lot about what we do because of Derek. And prior to last year, when Be Home started up and a couple other amazing resources in Denver for IDD, there weren't as many things. We were just teaching some of the shelters about IDD. We were connecting more with the co-responders and the police department. And now we're kind of, our go-to is, it's Be Home. It's the resources, Be Home. It's RM, it's DHS. It's anybody who can provide some assistance for people who have absolutely no natural resource, which is mostly who we work with. What's needed right now is something right now, not something in the future. What we're always finding is that, you know, there has to be some, and I've heard a lot about it today, where people think of like, yeah, transitional service for folks where they're coming every day, they're meeting every day, they're seeing me, they're telling me somebody will see you tomorrow, helping me figure out what rent I need to open up or what mail I need to open up, what phone calls I need to make. A lot of stuff happens in the first month of living someplace, first 90 days. We definitely need more funding in this to provide more comprehensive support because it's really not even there once they get that long-term Medicaid. Sometimes the hours that they get for that SIS scoring and so forth, it really doesn't meet the need at all. So more funding is necessary. We're able to provide some extra funding for things that, in addition to what Medicaid can cover by accessing RMHS mill levy funds through Denver property taxes. So we also find that people have crisis and mental health support. Such a huge need. Almost everybody, almost everybody has had, that we meet has had some significant trauma, PTSD, and many of the folks we meet with have complex PTSD, childhood trauma that's pretty deep. And I don't think a lot of our folks have had the opportunity to actually experience a healthy relationship, even when they grew up with family members and things, but there's not really a concept of what a healthy relationship is. So when we're moving into a place, we're excited to maybe meet our neighbors. It's not the case a lot of times with the folks that we work with. They're a little nervous about their neighbors. And we have RMHS has a mill levy funded program also called START, and it actually meets the needs of crisis mental health support for folks with IDD. It's a national model of mental health support that we're pretty happy about, and it really does amazing things for the folks that we work with. And last one is program approved service agencies that are prepared for the challenges facing an individual moving from homelessness to a new apartment, because these are folks that didn't have that early intervention, family support services, they didn't have that. They didn't have a lot of the same things that could help with that natural support, kind of just supporting them into the next place. And then, yeah, let's work on some cooking and work on some things. We need a lot more comprehensive support in the area of what SLS is for folks that are experiencing homelessness and have come out of homelessness. We're currently working with the Denver Courts Competency Diversion Group. There's 25 folks that have been looped in, you've heard about this too, people with developmental disabilities looping through jail systems constantly with a misdemeanor. There's some pretty amazing work being done in Denver around that, and 25 folks are on the docket to get into services and have services connected before they get released. That is unique. So we're pretty excited about that kind of partnership that we're working on too. Just some context. You've all heard of the point in time numbers when they go around, they pick their Metro Denver Homelessness Initiative. provides that point in time count every year for Denver and surrounding counties. Last year, there were 24,501 people that accessed homelessness services through MDHI in the Denver and surrounding counties. And out of that 24,500, 3,400 actually responded that they and said that they had a developmental disability, which we found that's like 14% of this number, which we found also interesting because we don't meet anybody or work with many people at all that actually know they have a developmental disability or would know to say that. So that's a lot more than 3,400 people. And that's also not including people that are coming out of jail, or it's not including people either who are who've immigrated here. And we are working with about 25 families that have folks with developmental disability in their family setup that have come from other countries. So we're working hard, we're working fast, and a bunch of people are helping us now. And that's that.
So thank you. You wanna, oops, I'll start one. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We've got actually about 5 minutes. If there are any questions, if you want to raise your hand, I can walk the mic over to you. Awesome. Give me 1 minute. Let me bring the mic so that folks can hear.
I have a lot of complicated questions, but I'm gonna ask the easy one. Is the bailout services, are the bailout services available statewide in specific counties and the same, or broken down from the state? So maybe just let us know the counties you serve.
You can answer.
Okay. So both VHome and mission supports are mill-levy funded. Yeah, mill-levy funded. So we are Denver, the city and county of Denver specific only.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I know it's been a long day. Thank you for hanging in there. We have about, let me double check. Yep, you have a 15-minute break. Please do come back. Our final session is a large group together. Call to action. We have some special guests who will be speaking with us as we talk about next steps moving forward out of the summit. So grab a coffee, run to the restroom. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock. Thank you so much.
That's like the kid, that was where Joe's from.
Thank you. You did a great job.
I don't know.
Great.
Good, good.
Great. Our final sessions are call to action. I'm not sure why you said.
I don't think they did.
Okay, I would be surprised.
Let me double check to see.